Sir, I wonder what sort of people the Waggoners Walk scriptwriters are. They have taken us through labyrinths of illicit sex, homosexuality, illegitimacy, and all permutations.
My friends and I listen to Waggoners Walk every day and discuss it afterwards. The scripts reflect so truthfully the problems of everyday life.
Waggoners Walk, the radio soap opera that took over from the Dales, spanned 11 years of my life. When I first started writing for it in 1969, I was newly married with a student husband and a small baby. By the time it finished in 1980, I was separated from my husband and struggling with all the problems of a single parent. The Dales was not an easy act to follow. When it came off after 21 years, there were bomb threats, protests, even a question in the House of Commons. Critics who had disparaged the programme for years suddenly became its champion, and Alan Downer and I, who devised the new series, having previously written for the Dales, were forced to go into hiding. Our brief was to make the new series as different as possible from its predecessor. There would be fast-moving stories, few taboo subjects, and instead of a cosy, Dale-like couple at the centre, 3 swinging young girls living in North London.
I'm back. Home with the milk, literally.
Just for a change?
Oh, going to work on an egg.
Mm-hmm.
Do I detect a note of disapproval?
What happened this time? Missed the last tube?
How'd you guess? I could have got a lift with some lechy lawyer in an E-type Jag, but I know what that would have meant, a fight to the death on Hampstead Heath, and frankly, I didn't feel up to it.
So?
I plumped for a solitary sofa in South Ken. Satisfied?
Was it a good party?
Well, it wasn't the orgy to end all orgies. No hanging from the curtain rails or passing on the pot, but it was fun while it lasted.
Tracy, who's going to carry the can if anything happens to you?
Oh, Lynn, you sound more like Mum every day. I can take care of myself.
It was, of course, a disaster. Figures plummeted and the critics had a field day.
Waggoners Walk is the kind of programme where free-range birds talk about sex but don't do it, where they know about pot but don't smoke it, and where people carry on about student protest but studiously avoid the reality.
As for the youngsters of Waggoners Walk, I can't see them having much of a future until they stop trying to be latter-day versions of those awful schoolboy detectives, Norman and Henry Bones.
Changes had to be made, and quickly. So Lynn married Peter Tyson, Barbara stopped chasing after stolen paintings, and even Tracy began to grow up.
I don't know, when I first came down to London, it all seemed so simple. You were here. It wasn't like leaving home at all. Except things were a lot easier and more swinging. I was out to have a good time, and I did. It was great.
And?
Rusty said something to me once about being the oldest teenager in the business. He was right. You can't go on being a swinger forever.
Round about the same time, number 1 Waggoners Walk changed owners. Out went token student Rusty Vaughan, and in moved, surprise, surprise, a pleasant middle-class couple with children, Mike and Claire Nash, and the programme had laid its roots. Though I do remember some very heated exchanges about what Mike's job should be. What about a vet? Do you know what Percy Edwards' fee is? A social worker, then. You must be a mole from commercial radio. What? A journalist? Everyone hates journalists. But not, it transpired, the editor of a local newspaper, which is what Mike finally became. The meat of the programme, though, came from the characters of Lynn and Peter, so sensitively played by Judy Franklin and Basil Moss. When their fictional marriage broke up, some listeners turned quite nasty.
We are 8 long-distance lorry drivers. Our wives have already written to you about bringing Lynn and Peter Tyson together again. We too listen to the programme on our cab radios and feel they should be reunited. We are giving you until the new year to do so. After that, we start sorting people out. So watch out for 8-wheelers and dark corners.
But we took our lives in our hands and went ahead. Well, happy marriages don't have much mileage in soap. And Lynn and Peter's divorce and their subsequent marriages to Matt Pryor and Liz Warner provided some of the most rewarding scenes. A vicar even devoted a sermon to the theme of friendship between divorced couples when he heard an episode where Peter consoled Lynn after her father's death.
Thank you for staying, Peter.
That's all right.
I need someone to lean on. And it's a great consolation to me to have Jeremy close at hand.
Yes, I know.
You sure Liz doesn't mind?
No, she understands perfectly.
There's so much to be done. All the arrangements.
You can leave all that to me.
I want to keep busy, Peter. I don't want too much time to think.
You'll be busy. There's your mother, Tracy, the children. They'll all be looking to you for a lead. A practical one.
Yes, this is where Lynn swings into top gear, isn't it? Organising everything, picking up the pieces. And if I sound bitter, it's because that's the way I feel.
Why?
Because I let him down.
Oh,
Yes,
Lynn.
I did. I've been so busy being practical and planning everybody's future. I haven't given a thought for the here and now.
By the second year, Waggoners Walk was in. I knew we'd made it when Frankie Howard in Up Pompeii called someone a Waggoners Walkover. By then we had a basic writing team of 4. Alan Downer, Barbara Clegg, Peter Ling and myself. Sometimes our real-life dramas would impinge on the programme. I remember one meeting being held round a hospital bed where Barbara Clegg awaited the birth of her second son. And on another occasion we all crouched beside Peter Ling, who had injured his back and was forced to lie prostrate on the floor. By the end of these all-day planning sessions, desperation, if not hysteria, often set in, sometimes reflected in the programme itself.
Oh, I'm so sorry to burst in on you.
Oh, that's all right, Alice.
Only I thought you ought to know at once. Oh, Claire, it's awful. Absolutely awful.
Well, what's happened?
It's all in the local paper, you see.
Yeah, look at the headlines.
Redevelopment scheme. Council proposals.
Oh, yes. Well, what's the matter with that?
Well, can't you see? The redevelopment.
Well, yes, I can see that.
Yeah, but can you see where it's going to be?
It's going to be all round here. They're going to pull down Waggoners Walk.
But in the main, the series became far less frenetic and allowed the stories to spring from the characters themselves. The same critics who had slated us at the start began to take us seriously.
Waggoners Walk has evolved into far and away the most intelligent and dramatically interesting of the soaps. Its world is more challenging, the human problems it poses more complex.
Waggoners Walk is currently tackling human problems with impressive candour and sympathy. My resume cannot do justice to the humane scripts and the constant resource of the performances.
Some modern soaps are praised for dealing with contemporary problems, but there are few issues that we didn't tackle in Waggoners Walk. Male and female homosexuality, agoraphobia, epilepsy, senility, infertility, frigidity, rape and its after-effects. And how many soaps would dare to make one of their leading men a paraplegic while giving the other a vasectomy?
I think it'd be crazy, and I'm not letting you do it, Peter. Now eat your supper or it'll get cold.
Look, we both agree we can't afford to take any more risks, not after that scare.
Yes, I know.
Well, we're taking them all the time at present.
Fair enough.
So
But
what
on
do
the-
we do about it? The pill's out for you now?
Well, there are other ways, Peter.
All of which we've tried, and all of which are either unsafe or simply unacceptable to us. Darling, we wouldn't be in this dilemma if they weren't. So the only alternatives left, as I see it, are sterilisation or total abstinence, and I know which I'd prefer.
All right. But if anyone's going to be sterilised, it should be me, not you.
Why?
Because I'll soon be 40. Because I definitely don't want any more children. And because my childbearing days are numbered anyway.
Nonsense. You could have another 10 years. And you admitted yourself you didn't fancy the idea of being sterilised.
Well, I fancy it a darn sight more than letting you have it done.
Not that Waggoners Walk was all sexual problems and social issues, far from it. There was plenty of light relief. Characters like Arthur Tyson, Peter's crotchety father, Stan and Alice Hickey, Gordon Turner and Kath Miller were a joy to write for. And another favourite of mine was Mrs. Tandy, played by that wonderful actress, the late Griselda Harvey. So vulnerable in serious moments, she also provided a marvellous foil to Nan Marriott Watson's colourful bridey petters.
Now, China tea all right for you?
Yeah, China would be delicious.
Mrs. Moffat always has that.
Mrs. Moffat?
Yes, she's on my other side. Another refined person like yourself. Sure, it'll be like being sandwiched between two dainty slices of tin bread. And me known better than corned beef.
Oh,
I asked her long later to meet you. As well as Commander Hicks and one or two others. You'll be all right in the centre of things straight away.
As I count myself very fortunate.
I've already reserved one of the decent chairs for you in the television room.
Oh, I thought so.
Right next to mine. And you're sitting at our table at breakfast. The one near the kitchen, that is. So the food comes up warm.
Well, I'd rather thought it would be nice to get my own breakfast.
Then we'll take it together in your room. However you're happiest. That's all I want, Mrs. Tandy. For you to be happy here.
Alas, the BBC has only kept a few Waggoners Walk tapes, and most of these mark special occasions or feature a guest star, seldom the best episodes. I remember on one anniversary someone had the bright idea of recording the episode live on a steamer as it sailed down the Thames, packed with celebrities. Unfortunately, they forgot about the bridges and what they do to microphones. But the real stuff of a daily soap is, as always, birth, death and marriage.
Tracy, wilt thou have this man to thy wedded husband, to live together according to God's law in the holy estate of matrimony? Wilt thou love him, comfort him, honour and keep him in sickness and in health, and forsaking all other keep thee only unto him, so long as ye both shall live?
I will.
Who giveth this woman to be married to this man?
I do. Come on, honey. It's no good brooding over it.
No.
Say after me.
No, you've got to snap out of it, I know.
I, Christopher, take thee, Tracy.
It's just funny,
my
isn't it?
wedded wife.
When you think
I, Christopher,
it happened
take thee,
while we were having our
Tracy, my
party.
wedded wife, to have and to hold.
Right while we was in the middle of having a drink. And a laugh, poor old Stan was over there kicking the bucket.
Yeah.
Now he's finished. Gone. Just like that. Just as though he hadn't ever been. Except for Alice.
And his children. And his grandchildren.
Let me be the first to congratulate you, Mr. Tyson. Your grandson was born at 10 minutes past midnight.
A boy?
4.5 pounds and very much alive and kicking.
And Lynn?
Doing fine.
Oh, thank God.
Now, where's that brandy? We've got something to drink too.
7 months ago, when I came round after the crash and found myself cracked up like this, I wondered why I'd been allowed to survive. I asked myself, what was the point of living? Well, today I know, and she's standing here beside me.
As at your marriage, your hands were joined. So now I ask you, Michael, to take your wife's hand in yours and say after me. I, Michael, give thanks to God for you, Claire.
I, Michael, give thanks to God for you, Claire.
My wedded wife.
My wedded wife.
I renew my pledge to you.
I renew my pledge to you.
I, Claire, give thanks to God for you, Michael.
I, Claire, give thanks to God for you, Michael.
Waggoners Walk came off with a suddenness that hit many listeners as hard as it hit the writers and cast. The first I knew of it was when I turned on the radio news and heard that the series was to be axed along with 5 orchestras as part of the BBC's 1980 cutbacks. I felt as though I'd lost a limb. Another 11 years have passed since it ended, but I still look back on those days with a nostalgic ache. And when I drive through Belsize Park, I find myself looking out instinctively for the old horse trough that marked the imaginary street that was once Waggoners Walk.